Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So I have here another 10 pens currently inked for this week. I think let's go through them briefly one by one. We'll go through them in a little bit more detail and then we'll do a writing sample. So from left to right we have a Visconti Voyager, and this is in the Yellow Dawn. We have a Visconti Voyager in the Forest Green. We have a Visconti Homo Sapiens, and this is the Sapphire Blue. We have a Montegrappa Game of Thrones Winter is Here. We have a Visconti Divina Elegance in green, a Visconti Divina in brown, a Visconti Divina in Typhoon blue. We have a very old Visconti here, and this is the Rotary version. We have an Onoto Longitude, and we have a Montegrappa Extra High Tech. So I think let's go through these in a little bit more detail. So this is the Visconti Voyager. It's a pen that I've had in my collection for a long time. It's the older clips that you had on Viscontis. They used to call this the kill clip. I really used to like this clip. It was very, very functional, very springy. But I know some people complain that it didn't grip very well. The shirt pocket, I'm not one to put this in a shirt pocket. The end finial is just blank there. But it has this lovely, it's actually called a Kaleido Voyager. And it has this Kaleido pattern of white running through it. Very, very beautiful. I picked this up in Italy at a bookstore and pen store. And it has the older Visconti 14 karat gold nibs. This is a medium nib, which writes a little bit more on the fine. It is a cartridge converter, and I'll show you that here. I am going to ink that up to start writing with it this week. So that will be inked up on video. You can post the cap here, and it will post deeply and securely. I really wish that Visconti continued to make these Voyagers, because they are really good pens. I did pick them up for, I think the original Voyagers were selling for around £450, euros, dollars retail price. And I think I picked these up for about $250 at the time. So it was a really good buy. They were new, not used, as far as I'm aware. But yeah, it was a very good price. And I wanted a couple more colours in the Kaleido. I got the honey almond, I got the forest green, but there was a few more colours, and I never was able to pick them up, mostly because I didn't want to pay the increased prices. I think I paid well over the odds for the honey almond, and I decided after that I wouldn't pay more. The next pen here is the forest green in the Visconti Kaleido Voyager, and again, lovely, lovely pattern here. I really, really do like this. Again, it is the old style kill clip, just a blank finial here. These were not limited editions, these were just regular editions. This has a 14 karat gold Visconti nib, and this is a fine nib. And typically I find the medium writes a little bit more of a fine, and the fine writes a little bit more like a medium. So again, consistency, nib width, you get that on every manufacturer. It's not just Visconti, and this was before obviously the 23 karat palladium nibs were even dreamt of. So these were in the early 90s Viscontis, which I think it was around about 1992. I think these came out. So that'll be 02, 12, 22. It's 30 years old now, these pens, and almost could be classed as vintage. I say almost because there are varying definitions of what people think of as vintage. Some people think it has to be older than themselves. Some people think it has to be older than 30 years old. Some think it has to be 50 or 100 years old. But I would say that these are maybe entering into the vintage era of pens, for me anyway. The next pen inked up here is a Visconti Homo Sapiens, and it's the Demostone model. So it's got the blue Demostone there instead of the My Pen finial. The My Pen finial they swapped and put it on the rear. Not a great fan of it being on the rear, but that's what they did. And this is the Sapphire Blue, and I like this. I had the Caput Mundi in the red. I had obviously the London Fog, the Florentine Hills, but in these translucent colours, I had the Caput Mundi in red. I had the Jade, and then I got this one as well. Now it does have the hook safe lock mechanism there. This has a newer 14 karat gold in-house nib from Visconti. It is a power vac filler. You can post the caps on these. I do find it a little bit back weighted, but not massively. And you're probably not going to unlock the mechanism. If you unlock it, it's got quite a lot of long threads before you can pull that rod out. So I don't think that's a major issue in terms of posting your cap. It will post quite nicely. The next pen, I'm just still in awe at. This is a heavy pen. It's got a lot of silver on it, but the underlying material is a celluloid. It's a shiny lines celluloid, and I never thought of this before I bought it, but I do wonder that you do get celluloid where it off gases, and I wonder, having the silver wrapped quite tightly around that body, if that will make it shrink or expand at any point. Well, clearly it probably won't expand, but it might expand in areas where it's not covered. I don't know, is the honest question. I hope not. I think Montegrappa really do pretty well in terms of the curing of their celluloid, so I don't think it's going to be a problem. With other manufacturers, I might think it would be, but I don't think so with Montegrappa. But this is a beautiful pen. It's made out of lost wax casting. I always have trouble saying that. I don't know why. But you can see there you've got the various walkers here, and you've also got Game of Thrones there as well. It's a piston filling pen. You've actually got this featured clip which is coated in blue enamel. Brilliant. I think Montegrappa hit this one out of the ballpark. I do wish, though, it had a number 8 size nib. It's a number 6. I got this in a medium nib. The section also is very thin. I think I would have preferred a section about the same diameter as the piston knob there. But to do that would have meant that you would need a much wider cap, and I suspect that you would not have been able to, that celluloid is probably only so thick that you probably wouldn't have been able to bore a wider celluloid and have it remain in structure. So I think from that perspective, it's great, but I would have liked to have seen it in a larger nib, a number 8 size nib, because that would require a wider section as well. The next pen inked up is a Divina from Visconti, and I used to love these a lot. I've not written with them a lot this year, so I decided that I would ink these back up. This is the Elegance in green, and this was the first pen I bought from Chris at Truffet in the US. I remember Chris messaging me on Instagram like he knew me, and obviously he did, because he'd been following me like most of you do. But he was trying to sell me a pen, and more so this pen, because it was just coming out, and he wanted to do whatever he could to sell me this pen, and we struck a deal, and we worked it out, and I got a fairly good price for it, and I didn't get stung on import. These actually have a captured converter here, and you pull this knob out here, and then you twist it, and it's just like a regular converter. It's got a hook safe lock mechanism, and it's got a number 6 size Visconti nib. It's a 23 cap palladium medium nib. The beauty about these is that you can post the caps. It's a bit long and a little bit back weighted, but those rods do match up. So from that perspective, it's always great to see that. So I have that one inked up this week. Another one I have is this Visconti Divina in brown. And I remember buying this from what was an auction site on eBay called Marte Modena or Modena. And this was going really, really dirt cheap. And I decided I would bid on it, and I won the bid, won the auction. And glad that I actually bid on it. I was after a few pens at the time back then, and this was, I want to say, I think 2017. Might have been it must have been 2017. And I'm glad that I got this. Again, it does have these captured converters you pull out and twist, a hook safe lock mechanism, a 23 cap palladium nib, a medium nib there, number 6 size. And again, you can post the caps, and those silver rods just line up between the cap and the body. It is a little back weighted. These captured converters hold about 0.7 milliliters of ink, about the same as a regular converter. So not a huge amount. So you do find that when I write, I always go through a converter quite quickly, 3 or 4 pages of A4. So obviously it depends on the nib and how wet it writes. A lot of my nibs do write wet. So I do find I go through ink fairly quickly on those. And then the next one here was one that I actually bought from what a number of us call Rozzy or Rosmenko in Australia. He's I think he still is, the Australian Visconti distributor. And this was the Typhoon blue, and again it has another pull-out captured converter that you twist and turn. This one's a little bit easier to pull out and not break your nails on. Not that I have any, but I remember a conversation with Brian Goulet, because he said, that's the Divina Elegance in blue that he has. And I said, no, it's not. And he said, yes, it is. And I said, no, it's not. And I showed him some close-up pictures of the blue Typhoon swirls that you get in here. And also, there is a limited edition one there that you can see, 35 of 100. So this is a limited edition version, not the regular version, which is essentially what the brown is. But this is a beautiful material. I like the pen a lot. I just haven't written with it a lot. Again, a 23 cap palladium. This is a medium nib, captured converter. You can still post the caps, and those rods line up. It's a really nice pen. They brought out a Bordeaux version and a turquoise version since in this year, and the Divinas have gone, well, I was going to say the Divina's gone up in price a lot, but the truth is, obviously, most manufacturers' prices have gone up because of the pandemic. Also, inflation as well. Likewise, the Divinas are, all of the Visconti prices have gone up, but the Divinas have gone up. I remember the Divinas were around about £600-700. They're typically now, I think, £1,100-1,200, which I think is a little bit too much for those, for what they are. You can obviously get them discounted. You can buy them discounted from various retailers, but I do think, obviously, the prices have gone a little bit sky high on some of those Viscontis. But it's not just Visconti. Other manufacturers have as well. Like Montegrappa prices, I think, have increased. Quite a lot of manufacturers have. Certainly the higher, maybe mid to higher range pens have, most certainly. Now the next pen here, this is a pen I bought on eBay a number of years ago. I think it was 2017. This is a Visconti Rotary. So the Rotary Club had a bunch of these pens made to celebrate 100 years. And this, you'll see the Rotary Club ship's wheel there. And the Visconti My Pen finial there. Technically, it's not a My Pen finial. It's just a finial, essentially. You can't remove it. This one I bought from Italy. A seller had a bunch of these to sell. It is celluloid. It is a lapis lazuli. And you can see there a beautiful lapis lazuli celluloid. This and all of their pens, they didn't tell you in actually, I think they told you that in the description on the eBay listing, it said there might be some oxidization. But the pen, this pen and other pens basically had verdigris on it, on the gold plating. And also the pen shown on the listing was not the pen that you got. But I did win it at an auction, and I got it for a really good price, about the price of a gold nib. But you'll see there is a lot of verdigris damage. I did have to try and treat that and remove it, which has left some of the gold plating looking a little bit worse for wear. But this is essentially a vintage pen, or close to that. 2005, so it's what, 15, nearly 20 years old. Maybe not vintage, but it's a nice pen. I love the celluloid. I don't write with it that much, but the nib on here is a fine 18 karat gold nib, and it writes spectacularly. The pen itself, if I unscrew this, has the power vac filler. It's an old style. Again, a lot of sort of corrosion there on. I think it's brass, maybe. I know on some other pens these were silver, or probably rhodium more than anything, not actual silver, silver coloured. But this is a nice pen, and I do still write with it from time to time. I love the nib. I've thought about transplanting the nib out of this into another pen. I could do, I haven't. But I do just like to ink this up now and again. I love the celluloid in this, so I decided I would ink that one up again this week. The next pen is, I've had this inked up for a few weeks now. It's the Onoto Longitude, and the material here on the cap, the ship's wheel, the rope there as well, and also the cap band here, are all from coins that have been recovered from the shipwreck of the Association. So this is a themed pen, and it's called the Longitude. It's got a ship's anchor there for the clip, and you've got some waves or wind here as well. The clip, the cap there is quite nice, and you can see the clip as it comes round. This was a shipwreck from the Association ship, a British maritime ship that sunk off of Gibraltar, and also it was almost a fleet of ships that sunk. And the reason why it's called the Longitude is that we had the latitude back then when the ship sunk, but we didn't have longitude. So we did not have a way of pinpointing a wreck. And I think it took about 60 odd years and a huge bounty. And they managed to come up with how to work out the longitude. And that's why this is called the Longitude. Beautiful pen, and you do have the latitude and longitude here of the shipwreck. Has a number 7 size Onoto medium 18 karat gold nib. It is cartridge converter, and you can post the cap, but it is a bit back weighted, so it's not something normally I would want to do. But if you want to wrestle and you want to build up some muscle, then in your forearm, then that certainly will help. And then the last pen here is the Montegrappa, and it's the Extra High Tech, which I've also had inked up for a few weeks now. You've got 1912 there on the cap finial. You've got the roller clip. It's made of titanium, which is the cap band here. I think it's aluminium. You've got a titanium clip, carbon fiber body there, and a titanium section with a number 8 size nib with an ebonite feed. It is a cartridge converter pen, not a piston. You can post the cap, but it won't post deeply, but it will post somewhat securely there. It's not going to come off easily. But it's a nice pen, and I picked it up for a relatively good deal from what I could have paid in the UK for that model. But it was a good pen, and I bought it around about the time I bought the Game of Thrones Winter is Here, and it came all the way from the US. So it took a little while. I think it was just over a week to arrive, week and a half, but I was glad when it did arrive. So there you have it. That's my 10 currently ink pens for this week. I think let's now go and do a writing sample. So the first pen here is the Visconti Kaleido Voyager in Yellow Dawn. So we'll do an ink swatch. Now I did say that this writes, it is a medium, but it is a medium, but I do find that this writes a little bit more on the finer side. This is the Visconti Kaleido Voyager Yellow Dawn, and it's a medium, and it's a 14 count. Double check. Yeah, it's a 14 count gold nib. I don't know why it's called the Yellow Dawn, because it's an orange color, but if you know, I know Dante used to call pens, or certainly with Penida, he calls pens after movies. So maybe it's after a movie. I'm not so sure. The ink in here is Diamine Blaze Orange, which I think is a good match for this pen. The next pen here is the Visconti Kaleido Voyager in Forest Green. So we'll do an ink swatch. Now this is a fine, and I typically think it writes a little bit more like a medium. It certainly writes wetter, I would say, than the previous Visconti Kaleido Voyager. So this is the Visconti Kaleido Voyager in the forest green, and it's a fine, and just double check, I think, yeah, it is a 14 karat gold nib. I thought it was, but something was telling me that it might be 18 karat gold. And then the ink in here is KWZ Grass Green, which is a beautiful ink. And I do typically have this inked up in a bunch of pens. The next pen inked up is the Visconti Homo Sapiens Demostones in the Sapphire Blue. So we'll do an ink swatch. So this is the Visconti, I'm going to say Homo Sapiens Demostones in Sapphire Blue. And it's a medium 14 karat gold nib. And then the ink in here today is Visconti Turquoise. And I'd say it's not that of much of a turquoise coloured ink, but it's still not too bad. The next pen inked up is a Montegrappa Game of Thrones Winter is Here. And yes, I do still have this inked up in a grey ink. I have bought some other grey inks, so when I run this down, I will probably swap it and give it a different grey ink a try. But for now, this is the Montegrappa Game of Thrones Winter is here, and it's a medium, and it's an 18 karat gold nib, and then the ink in here is Diamine Earl Grey. But that is a lovely grey ink. It's my favourite grey ink, and it will probably always be my favourite grey ink. The next pen here is the Visconti Divina Elegance in green. Now, I normally ink this up with a bright green, but I decided I would go with a slightly darker green, mid-green. And you'll see here, it's actually the same one as in the Kaleido Voyager. So this is the Visconti Divina Elegance in green, and it's a medium, and it's a 23 cap palladium nib, and then the ink in here is KWZ Grass Green, which is quite a nice green, and honestly I think it probably matches the colour of that pen, the more darker, mid to darker areas of that pen. The next pen is the Visconti Divina in brown. So we'll do an ink swatch. And I do like this nib. It actually has a little bit of a bounce to it. It's quite a nice nib. So this is a Visconti Divina in brown. And it's a medium, and it's a 23 cap palladium nib. And then the ink in here is Diamine Ochre, which for me is a very lovely brown coloured ink, one that I do use a lot. The next pen is a Visconti Divina, and this is the Typhoon Blue. So we'll do an ink swatch. And typically I would put a very deep blue in it, maybe Visconti blue, but I decided I would ink it up with something different. This is Visconti Divina, and it's the Typhoon Blue, and it's a medium, and it's a 23 cap palladium nib. And then the ink in here is Pilot Iroshizuku Aji Sei, which is a nice sort of blurple, mauvey, forget-me-not blue kind of colour of ink. The next pen inked up is the Visconti Rotary. So we'll do an ink swatch here. And this is a very dark blue. I typically find a little bit more darker in this pen for some reason. Not really sure why, but it is. So this is the Visconti Rotary, and it's a fine, and it is a 18 karat gold nib. This just writes perfectly. Now the ink in here is KWZ, and it's Hawaii. And I do find that in a lot of pens that this looks a little bit more like a blue-black. It's very, very dark. Let me show you the cap here. You can see that ink there. It really is quite dark. It's not what I would really perceive Hawaii luscious blue seas being. The next pen inked up is the Onoto Longitude. So we'll do an ink swatch. And this really is the what I would perceive to be Hawaii blue. So this is a Onoto Longitude in a medium, and it's an 18 karat gold nib. And the ink in here is Pelican, Edelstein, and it's Topaz. And I was just thinking that these medium nibs are these 18 karat gold medium nibs from Onoto or Bock are very generous and wet, and quite broad, or almost a broad nib. And I wonder what a broad would be like. I don't think Onoto do double broads yet. But I wonder if a broad would be a little bit too broad. I've got a broad in a steel nib, which is technically a Yovo nib, and that just writes more like a broad. But I do wonder, actually, I've got some other Visconti nibs that are made by Bock that are broad and double broad, and I might have to get a broad nib in future. And then the last pen here is the Montegrappa Extra High Tech. So we'll do an ink swatch here. And this is an ink that I like. It's a little bit, it's not as wet as I thought it would be. But this is a Montegrappa Extra High Tech. And it's a medium, and it's an 18 karat gold nib. And the ink in here is KWZ Cappuccino, which is a lovely brown colour, a lighter brown, but it's a brown that I am liking. So I think let's take a look at these pens inked up one more time. We have a Visconti Kaleido Voyager in Yellow Dawn, in a medium 14 karat gold nib inked up with Diamine Blaze Orange. We have a Visconti Kaleido Voyager in Forest Green, in a fine 14 karat gold nib inked up with KWZ Grass Green. We have a Visconti Homo Sapiens Demostones Sapphire Blue, in a medium 14 karat gold nib inked up with Visconti Turquoise. We have a Montegrappa Game of Thrones Winter is Here, in a medium 18 karat gold nib inked up with Diamine Earl Grey. We have a Visconti Divina Elegance in green, in a medium 23 karat palladium nib inked up with KWZ Grass Green. We have a Visconti Divina Brown, in a medium 23 karat palladium nib inked up with Diamine Ochre. We have a Visconti Divina Typhoon Blue, in a medium 23 karat palladium nib inked up with Pilot Watch Shizuku Aji Sei. We have a Visconti Rotary in a fine 18 karat gold nib inked up with KWZ Hawaii. And I almost want to say that this is a green black. I know it's not, but it does write like that in some pens. Very, very, almost a blue black, green black. The next pen inked up is an Onoto Longitude in a medium 18 karat gold nib inked up with Pelican, Edelstein, Topaz. And then the last pen here is the Montegrappa Extra High Tech in a medium 18 karat gold nib inked up with KWZ Cappuccino. So there you have it. That's my currently ink pens for this week. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.